All right, welcome and thanks for clicking on the video. So what we're going to do first is we're going to talk about equipment. Now, you don't have to have a dartboard and everything in your own house to practice properly. You can go to your local pub or bar, whoever has a dartboard, but there's not many of them nowadays, so it's a little tough. But if you want to put one up at home, it's great because you can practice whenever you have a few minutes, because practice makes perfect. We'll get into that later. But if you have 10 minutes, you can practice rather than having to head down to wherever the bar is around you that has a dartboard. It's always fun to play with people, but practicing on your own really will do a lot for you. So let's start with the board. Good dartboards, they're going to run you, I'm in Canada, so Canadian money, and where I'm buying them, they're around $120 for a good board. Now you can get a beginner board for, about $80. There's not a lot of difference between the two, but there are some major differences between the two. Now, if you're just starting out, you don't even know whether you like darts or not, but you want to have a board at home so you can just hack around with your friends, go buy the $80 board. It's not a big deal. The difference is, if you look at this board, it has inset wire, okay? And it's really thin. That's why it's called a blade, because it's got thin wire. The other boards, the cheaper ones that you buy, are more inexpensive. They're still bristle boards, but they have a wire that's stapled in, so there's actual staples holding the wires on. They're bigger, makes for more bounce outs. You hit the wires with your dart all the time and your dart will bounce out. That's kind of the only difference between the two. This is called a dual core board, so the bristles are pushed in tighter so you get better stick for your dart. The dart stays in better, less bounce outs. It all really comes down to bounce outs when you have the difference between the boards. More inexpensive boards will give you more bounce outs than the more expensive boards. That's the difference, okay? Make sure you mount it properly. You can look up what the proper dimensions are to mount it. It's 5'8" to the middle of the board from the floor, and it's 7'9¼ to the Aki line, which is where you stand. It's called the Aki. So 7'9¼ from the floor. And then it's, I forget what it is, from the bull on a diagonal using your Pythagorean theorem, it's something like 113 or 115 inches. That's the best way to measure, by the way. Look it up, find out what that is. Lighting. When it comes to the lighting, I've got one of these, it's called a light ring. It's an LED light ring. This, in my opinion, is the best light you can get for a dartboard. When you put a dart in that board, I'll take a dart and show you. There's no shadow anywhere from that dart because it's got even light all the way around. This used to be my light until I got this, and there'd always be shadows pointing down. Regulations, I think you have to have at least 100 watts on the board when you're using a regular light, and they want it from 2 different light sources to decrease the shadow. But these light rings, they're fantastic. So I would get a light ring if you were thinking about it. In my opinion, the only way to go. You got to chalk on something. So put a board up. It can be a white board if you don't like having chalk dust around. I prefer chalk. It's easier than taking the cap off all the time, marking your score. As a dart player, we always, when you're shooting, we usually hold our chalker in our hand like this and our darts so you can throw, and then when you get to the board, you mark it down, chalk goes back in your hand. That's what you see most dart players doing who don't have a chalker. If you're playing in a tournament and they supply chalkers, then you don't have to worry about it. So chalkboard's a necessity. And the paper I got on the wall, I'll get into in another video. I will show you what I did for my Aki, just so you know. So when it comes to the Aki, I've put in a raised Aki. I built this one myself. You don't have to have a raised Aki. I just prefer it because when I go to shoot and I'm practicing at home, I like to just throw my foot up against the line and I don't have to look down to find out if I'm on the line, too far ahead, too far back. So that's the only reason I did this. I like playing with a raised Aki. You don't need it. You can put a piece of tape on the floor and away you go. I used to have tape on the floor. You can see the marks from it. But that's what I did because I like it. And the last thing we want to talk about is darts. Now, there's all kinds of different darts. Every professional player has their own line of darts, but you don't need really expensive darts to play the game of darts, all right? You could go into your local store that sells dart supplies and you can buy a $20 set of darts and they'll be just fine. Okay, you don't want to use obviously the ones with the plastic shaft and plastic flight all in one. But you can get a good set of darts for 20, 30 bucks. If you want to spend the money, you can get really good darts for $200. Just depends on what you want to do and how much money you have. But darts, it comes down to size, shape, weight. That's something you have to figure out on your own. Most dart places that sell darts will have a board set up so you can practice. So you can grab a set that you're thinking about, see how they feel in your hand, throw them, kind of get used to them, and decide which ones you like. And don't worry, you're going to buy the wrong darts. I would suggest buying $20 darts, $30 darts, so you can play with them, and then you realize, you know what, I'd rather this shape. Then you can go back and buy another set. If you go right off the top and buy a $200 set of darts, you're not going to want to change up and go buy another set. So start simple and work your way up. That would be my suggestion, at least. But if you got lots of money, do whatever you want. In the next video, we're going to talk about practice. So if you want to do that, click on the next video. Thanks for watching.